Hello, and welcome to our next episode of Small Screen Cinema with Tabitha and Dad. And you haven't seen us for a while. That's because I went on vacation and I was gone for two of the recording nights, so it didn't work out. And then when we got back last week, I was having computer problems and we couldn't get a sentence out without the computer freezing. So I had a Charter Spectrum come over, and I had a little piece of cable wire outside that had become frayed and was subjected to the elements. And also the grounding where they put the cable wire to ground it, apparently lightning struck the ground sometime and kind of fried that. That's what he fixed, and seems like everything's working fine now. So as I told Tabitha before we started recording, if this screws up, I'm going to cry.
And you guys don't want to see him cry. It's embarrassing.
It's a fit. I will flop on the floor. No, 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 no.
That's why it's embarrassing. He can't just cry. He has to throw a fit. It's
Yeah.
pretty bad.
We all have our spiritual gifts. So, all right, we're gonna look at the movie Dummy. And I do want to let you know that for those of you who may be younger and think that's a harsh title, in my lifetime, which I was born in 1966, I remember if you were a deaf mute, people said you were dumb and you were a dummy. And it wasn't like looked at as a derogatory thing. It's like the R word that were when I was growing up, we just lumped all the kids that were different into that neurodivergent into the R word, and we didn't
hmm
mean anything by it. That's just the word there was, and now things have shifted and everything. So
Yeah. Well, it's just people say, in my lifetime, dumb just means you're stupid.
yeah.
And I have heard dumb as a term for mute before, but yeah, no, we don't nobody says that anymore. And I've never heard dummy for a deaf mute. Because yeah, that does seem just mean.
Yeah. Um, the screenplay is by Ernest Tidyman, and he was a clean guy, very neat. So he is best known for this guy. I love him. The French Connection, Shaft, Shaft's Big Score, Guyana Tragedy: The Story of Jim Jones, which is not a great movie, but I was one of these people who was really fascinated with Jim Jones. I read books on him and everything else, and that's why I understand what's going on politically today with a cult. So
I
we're
thought
not.
you were going to say, and that's why I became a pastor. Jim Jones inspired me.
He died in 1984 at the tender age of 56. So, uh,
Bummer.
yeah, it was directed by Frank Perry, who did such, yeah, movies as Diary of a Mad Housewife. I'm a housewife and I'm so angry, but I'll put it in my diary. Yes, that one. Also did a movie, an early Jeff Bridges movie called The Rancho Deluxe, which I saw when I was a kid. Mommy Dearest, which has been maligned, but I kind of am entertained every time I've watched it.
Oh, it's bad, but it's very entertaining.
Oh, it's
Yes.
entertaining, yeah. And the Shelley Long movie, Hello Again, and a lot of other things. And unfortunately, he died in 1995 at the age of 65. So he probably had a good, 10 more years left of directing because he'd made it up to doing feature films and everything. But
Hold on. He also did two movies from the 60s that I really, really love. He did The Swimmer with Burt Lancaster, which is a really great. Oh, how did I hear it put? Like a boozy suburban surrealist nightmare. It's a great movie. I highly recommend it. And he did one called Last Summer, which has just now finally gotten a Blu-ray release for the first time since like it was on VHS. And that is a movie about three, or is it four? A few teenage kids spending the summer on a beach and things get dark. It's really, really a good
yeah,
movie.
I have seen that one. I haven't seen The Swimmer.
Yeah.
I'll have to look that up. Sounds interesting. The cast, Donald Lang is played by LaVar Burton, and we remember him from One in a Million, the Ron LaFleur story. Also Roots, Reading Rainbow, Star Trek, was it The Next Generation?
Next Generation.
Yeah, so and I've always liked his work, and I thought his work in this movie was outstanding again. Paul Sorvino is his legal counsel, Lowell Myers, and he is known for Goodfellas primarily. If you've not seen the movie Oh God with George Burns, you got to watch it. And that's when I first saw Paul Sorvino, and he plays a Baptist, Southern Baptist evangelist, and he plays him to the hilt. It's great. He was also in the Warren Beatty vehicle Reds. He was in The Cooler, and he was also on the Goldbergs. Long career, father of Mira and Michael Sorvino, and he died in 2022 at the age of 83. Brian Dennehy, the guy with no neck from In Broad Daylight. We've already looked at him. He plays Rigatti, and he passed away in 2020 at the age of 81. Rose Gregorian plays Jean, and those of you who are soap opera people will know that long time on Another World. She was also on ER. She was in the movie Eyes of Laura Mars and the movie City of Hope, and she died in 2023 at the age of 97.
Oh, Eyes of Laura Mars is such a fun thriller. Have you seen that?
Yes, yes. I
It's
saw
so wacky.
I saw it when I was like 12 or 13, and
Oh,
I went to my friend Terry's house. He had Showtime. And
ooh,
back in
fancy.
those days, there was, I mean, you just watch what was on it. Well, let's watch this
Yeah,
one. It was pretty good.
yeah.
Um, and Tabitha, was there anyone else in this movie we should name?
I don't know if you're thinking of someone else, but I'm thinking of two people that you left out.
Who?
Stephen Williams.
Stephen Williams is Julius, and we know him from
Yes.
21 Jump Street, The Equalizer, been in the X-Files, and Tabitha, maybe, is this your favorite series ever? Supernatural.
No, it's not my favorite series ever, but yes, I have watched all 15 seasons of it.
Wow.
And I
He's still,
have been to many a convention.
yes, yes. He is still with us at the age of 77. And
Yay!
who are you thinking of that I didn't mention?
She's in one scene, his 21 Jump Street co-star, Holly Robinson Pete. She plays the sister at the very beginning.
Really?
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, that is cool. You know her husband, Rodney Pete,
Hmm.
when we lived in Kansas City, you don't remember this because you were a baby and you're too preoccupied with pooping your pants. But anyway, um,
Fun, you should try it.
her husband was in high school at Shawnee Mission. I think it was Shawnee Mission South whenever I lived in Kansas City. So I kind of followed his career, his football career through senior year of high school, through college, through the pro. And then he married her. And kudos to them. They've been together for 30, 35 years. Awesome. So I did not recognize it. That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
This aired on May 27th, 1979 on CBS. And it was up against ABC. They used to do a tape delay of the Indianapolis 500. So they would do the
Oh,
race during the day, but they would show it at night. And also the NBC movie, The Best Place to Be, which I am not familiar with at all. Are you?
no,
Maybe it's
I
not
haven't
the
heard of
best
that
place to
one.
be. I don't know. The movie starts with a voiceover from Lowell, and he says, "This is a true story of Donald Lang and illustrate an illiterate deaf mute caught in the nightmare of a criminal trial." And you will notice in the opening voiceover that Lowell speaks distinctly, and that is because he is deaf. But whereas Donald became deaf as a baby, he was what, 5, 6 when he became deaf? Is
Yeah, he
that what he
was
said?
old enough to have
Yeah.
learned to
Yeah.
speak
So
English.
he
Yeah.
he could speak as a deaf person, which is pretty cool. That
Yeah, and I did write down, I'm like, oh, I don't know how I feel about Paul Sorvino doing the, for lack of a better term, deaf accent. I was like, oh, he's not deaf. Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, it was a different time, you know.
Yeah,
We had
yeah.
Italians playing Native Americans back then. What are you going to do? So then Donald walks into a bar and he sees a lady who's obviously a sex worker, and she motions over to him to kind of dance with her, and he just holds out money, and she tells him there's a time for dancing and a time for loving. Of course, he's a deaf mute, so he doesn't know what she's saying. He doesn't read lips or anything. They go outside, and as they're walking, she's saying, "Oh, I'm protected by this big, strong man." He points to the alley as opposed to going to her place. She protests, but then she says, "If that's what you want, that's what you get." So then we cut to the next morning. There is a woman who was also at the bar who had been talking to, uh, is it Ernestine or Geraldine?
Ernestine, what's her name?
Ernestine. Um, and she goes outside. They obviously live in the same apartment complex too. And um, she goes outside to find her dog, and the dog is fixated in this area. She goes back there, and there's a body of the woman at the bar, and she's dead. So in the next scene, Donald is walking, and he lives in the projects in Chicago, and they show him doing things like helping a lady with her groceries, and he's going to work. He takes a sack lunch to work, which I thought was cute, taking a sack lunch to work, and the people are greeting him, and he works at a produce warehouse loading trucks. And then we cut back to his apartment complex. The cops come to the door to talk to Donald's sister, Holly Robinson, Pete, um, which I didn't catch.
Mhm.
And she says Donald's at work, and the cop finds they just go in and kind of start taking stuff.
And they say, it's okay, honey, police. And I'm like, ew.
Yeah. Um, so one of the things they find a coat with blood on it, and her they ask where he's at, and sister tells him where he works. So we're back at the produce warehouse, and the cops show up, and they're talking to his boss, Mr. Ragati, who is the Brian Dennehy character. And Donald is kind of goofing around with some of his coworkers, or like at a lunch break. And you can see that going on in the background where the cops are talking to Rigatti. And I thought that was well shot, showing
Yeah.
him being playful. And then they're talking about this very serious allegation here, and we need him. So uh, the cops handcuff Donald. They take him to the station. They find a knife on him and send it to the lab with his clothes. And then the cops attempt to interrogate him about the death of Ernestine. And of course, he can't talk, he can't read lips, he can't hear. And so the cops start talking to each other. And one says that he doesn't think he's a deaf mute because he has a job. Well, yeah, people with impairments can't have a job. Of course not.
Everyone knows that.
Yes. So the other cop says he thinks he's faking. I'm thinking, my gosh, use a brain sometimes. I don't know. But anyway, they hand him a pad and pen, and he just puts an X on it. He doesn't know what they want. He can't read or write.
Hmm.
And so they take him to a cell. And in the next scene, we meet Julius, Donald's brother, and he is protesting the way the cops entered the house and pushed his family around, and to and he's talking to Lowell, the attorney, and he told Loyal, Lowell the lawyer. That's not easy. It's a tongue twister.
That should have been like his Saul Goodman catchphrase.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Lowell the loyal.
So um Julius tells Lowell that he had to read in the paper that he was the lawyer that was assigned to this. And Lowell explains that he is deaf and can't hear what he is saying. So let's calm down and look at what we can. I can read your lips. You need to slow down a little bit, but just gibbering on out of anger, I can't keep up with you. So, um, Julius is angry because Lowell's assistant, which is his sister Jean, keeps repeating what Lowell is saying. And he says, "Yeah, I don't know. Why is she doing that?" He said, "Then you're going to have to look at me to speak because she can hear and she knows I read lips. So you're going to have to look at me to speak." And he said, "Is that why they picked you to be the lawyer? Because you were deaf?" He says, "Yes, I specialize in the legal issues of the deaf," which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
And Julia says, "Nobody has ever stood up for Donald. When can you help?" And then we have a voiceover of Lowell saying, "For the rest of Chicago, Donald was just another bad dude." And Lowell, like a good lawyer, you go at it from the perspective that the client is innocent. So the next thing is getting off an elevator at the jail, and Gene tells Lowell he is already flooded with cases, and can't someone else handle Donald Lang? And he says no, that Loyal is going to talk to Donald alone, while Gene is going to check the background of the two cops. So she's his legal assistant.
And
And then there's
just he knows so little basic information about Donnie at this point, which I thought was weird because he's already talked to his brother, but he's still asking Donnie, "Do you read lips? Can you write?" No. And what's his name? Julius, the brother, should have told him this.
yeah,
I just thought that was kind of odd.
yeah. And Lowell says in a voiceover, "If I hadn't learned to speak, read, and write, I could be Donald Lang right now." So, yeah, I could understand how you would think this is a little personal.
Yeah.
So he's talking to Donald and he tells Donald how he is a lawyer. And no matter what he says, Donald just looks at him because he can't read lips or anything.
Yeah.
So Donald touches Lowell's ear with the hearing aid in it and then touches his own. And Lowell touches his ears and shakes his head, "No, I can't hear a thing." And he says, "I only wear the aid for vibrations so I can kind of dictate the volume of my voice if I'm speaking too loud or too soft." And of course, Donald's not going to get that, but it's good for us to know that. But
Yeah.
anyway, Lowell gives Donald a pen that writes in four colors. So, we've all seen the pens, like blue, red, green, purple. And
Yeah, they're fun to just click.
yeah, they are. So he demonstrates how it works to Donald and asks Donald to try. And Donald, just does it. So Lowell takes the pen apart and sits in front of Donald, and Donald understands he wants him to put it back together. And Donald puts it back together and smiles big. And Lowell says, "Someone with an engineering degree couldn't put it back together that quickly, and they call you a dummy." So he gives Donald the pen as a present. And he says, "I know it sucks to wait here, but I have to go learn more about you."
Hold on,
And
which is funny because he's the chief engineer on Star Trek.
oh, wow. But he still couldn't do the pen. I don't know. So anyway, so
Yeah. Yeah, there's that episode where he's like, "What is this? I can't put this pen together."
I've been carrying this pen since 1979. I forgot why. So and it writes in four colors like a rainbow, like reading rainbow. There you go.
It all connects.
Yes, yes. It all connects. And that's the roots of the story. Oh, that joke was one in a million. All right. See what she had to go through growing up with me. So anyway, there's a voiceover of Lowell again saying this was not a murder mystery, this was a puzzle. And so he goes to Donald's apartment, which he shared with Julius and his sister. And Julius answers the door and tries to blow Lowell off, and he tells Julius he needs help. So Julius lets him in, and Julius says as a baby he could hear, but then he got scarlet fever, and mom was the only word he ever learned, which is sad. Mom has passed away. Mom tried to get him help, but agencies didn't help at all. And then there's a flashback to Julius reading a rejection letter that mom got from a facility. And she says that we will teach him ourselves. And Julius says, well, that's going to take a lifetime. And mom says, well, that is all we can give him is a lifetime. And then there's a montage of mom showing young Donald how to do things. Um, it's pretty cool, simple things. And Julius explains that Donald never got into any trouble. And Lowell tells Julius he's going to go around the neighborhood and find out how Donald grew up in the neighborhood and didn't fall into trouble. And Lowell says, if you go out there asking questions, you're going to end up in a basket. And he says, I'll take my chances. I love tough lawyers. So,
Wait, hold on. I want to talk about this for a second. Um, because this whole flashback really broke my heart because, you know, Dominic is nonverbal autistic, my son, and we are lucky that we have resources and programs in public schools that we don't have to pay out of pocket for that weren't available or weren't available to everyone at the time this happened, you know? People would have called him the R slur and written him off. He would have, like you said, they lumped them all together. He would have been in, a classroom with lots of other neurodivergent kids or disabled kids who don't learn the same way as each other and probably didn't get that good of an education, you know? And Dominic is smart and loving. His brain just works differently, you know? And the same with Donald. He can't hear or speak, but he's obviously intelligent.
yeah,
It's a communication issue, and also one of when the mom is talking to somebody about getting him into a program, she said they won't take him because they said he's not toilet trained, but he just got excited. And Dominic's first pediatrician said when he was about 4, you need to get him potty trained before kindergarten, otherwise he won't be allowed to go to school. And I was like, that cannot be true. You know, you can't deny kids the right to go to school. Uh,
yeah,
eh, so far, American citizen children in this country have to go to school of some sort. So that whole thing hit me really hard because I know his mom tried so hard, and did the best she could. It was just really, really made me sad.
yeah. I've told this story to Kathy a few times. When I was in grade school, like I said, they were all lumped in the special education class. Anybody that was neurodivergent, learning disability, they're just all put in one class. There was one boy that was there for 1 year, and we always thought that he was the strangest kid because he would just grunt, he would snort, and sometimes he just, yeah, kind of.
Mm,
And now I understand this kid obviously had Tourette's,
yeah.
which has no effect on your intelligence, but it's a communication issue. But his Tourette's was so bad. I he wasn't just spouting terms; he was just making noises. And then as I learned a lot about Tourette's, because when I lived in Kansas City, one of my favorite ball players had Tourette's. And that's when I mean, he was an advocate for Tourette's, educating people on it and everything. And I found there are some people with Tourette's that's all they can do is like snort or grunt.
Hmm.
They just can't get words out. They understand everything. They just can't get them out. And for all I knew, this guy, could have been Einstein. But
Yeah.
You know, in a lot of ways, things have gotten much better than when I was a kid. You know, people are like, oh, we need to go back to, the good old days. Now,
No,
the same crap was happening, different crap, but, there was never a golden age in the United States. There was
no.
just different ages where different people were marginalized.
Mm.
So, off my soapbox. So, so Law walks into a neighborhood bar, the very one that Donald met Ernestine in, and he talks to the bartender.
Who I'm pretty sure the quality wasn't great, but I'm pretty sure he was in a Starsky and Hutch episode. He looked very familiar,
Looked
but I'm
very
not 100%.
Starsky-ish and Hutchess. Yes. So,
Yes, that.
uh, the bartender and has a patron at the bar, and they harass Lowell a bit, and says he is here for a good thing to help Donald. Let me do it. So they kind of lighten up on him, realizing that he's not going to scare off. And so the bartender tells him that Donald was a regular. He never made any trouble. He did go out with the women, and that's probably why he kept coming back here and blah, blah, blah. So in a in a flashback, Donald sees, uh, we see Donald and Ernestine at the bar, and he sees Ernestine get hit by what I assume is her pimp. And then that's when he approaches her, and bartender said Donald was always kind to the women. He gave them money and they gave him sex. And the bartender didn't think he killed her. He didn't think, no, no, he didn't kill her. So Lowell goes to the apartment of Ernestine's friend, Mrs. Harrod, she's the one who found Ernestine, who was at the bar the night before. And she said that she held Ernestine's coat at the bar when she went out with Donald. And then she said that she was home wide awake when Ernestine was killed. And she said, I heard them yelling and cussing, and I heard an awful scream, but that is common in this neighborhood. And she said that she heard Ernestine and a man. And the movie never picked up with this. Lowell never picked up with this, but I'm thinking, you heard a man. Uh, you got a witness who said, I heard a man. He can't speak. It can't be him. So,
That's what I said. I'm like, okay, you said you heard two voices. That somebody else must have been there, right? But
yeah.
yeah, she's never like called to the stand or anything, so I don't know.
Um,
Oh, wait, no, they did mention she passed away by the time the trial happens.
that's right. That's right. Okay.
Oh,
Now
okay.
I
So,
understand it.
yeah.
Okay. Um, so then we cut to a barber shop. Lowell's getting a haircut and he's talking to Jean, his sister slash legal assistant. And Jean asked if Mrs. Harrod is a good witness. He said, yes, I'm going to make sure he gets proper representation no matter what the situation. So then we cut to them walking. Lowell is nervous and he says he's nervous because what if I don't speak correct? And to get the jury's sympathy, Jean says that she will help. And he says, you've helped me all your life. You can't speak to the jury for me. And a lot of it is performance when you're an attorney. And that performance is hard when you don't have hearing and you're having to judge your voice flexion because that's when your emotion comes out. With your voice flexion, you can pull things back, you can emphasize things, and that's why he has the hearing aid to kind of help him do that. But just on his own, it's very difficult.
Hmm.
Um, so then we cut to the produce dock, and Lowell is going to talk to Rigotti, who's Donald's boss. And Rigotti says, just get him out of jail. I'm shorthanded and he's the best I got. And so Lowell says, can I buy you a beer? And Rigetti says, ah, you said the magic word.
I love that scene. It really made me think of Law and Order because Brian Dennehy's doing stage business while he's being questioned by the lawyer. I'm like, oh, stacking boxes, wiping down bars. They always got to do something.
Yeah. So they go to a bar and they're talking. And Rigotti says if cops had any brains, they would be lawyers. And Lowell says to him, or foreman on the loading docks. So it was kind of funny. So they bonded a bit. They became friends.
Yeah.
And he said Donald never misses a day of work. He doesn't quit like so many others. And while he's talking, there's a flashback to Donald, who came in and asked for a job. And he can't ask for a job because he can't speak. So what did he do? He just walked on the docks and started
Started
picking up
working.
two crates at a time and loading a truck. And they're all like, who's this guy? And so they didn't know what to do with him. So he just kept showing up. And so Rigotti finally hired him. And uh, Rigotti does realize that he is deaf and hires him. And he tells Lowell he didn't think he would see him again, but Monday morning he was right there when I got to work. Rigotti said that Donald was smart in his own way. He was very perceptive. The only trouble he causes with the other workers complaining that he worked too hard. And that's how my coworkers used to complain about me.
Oh yeah.
He just
Hmm.
works too hard. So, um, Lowell asked, how did you learn who he was? And Rigotti said, well, his mother came in one morning. She was a great lady. Uh, and I guess explained it to him and everything. So, um, he said he became a man on the docks in every way. And then there's a flashback, Donald getting out of a truck with a sex worker. He is smiling from ear to ear at the music. The other guys paid the fee for the service, and uh, I
Yeah,
like
I'm like,
that.
is this gross or heartwarming? I don't
I thought it
know.
was. He comes out of the truck smiling, and the song playing is feeling good, feeling good." So, um, he's Rigotti says until the cops picked him up, he was here every day for 4 years, and then there's a flashback to the workers eating lunch, yakking a sex worker, and behind Donald's back, they steal his apple, and Donald, trying to get his apple back, lifts one of the workers on his shoulders. They're just kind of horsing around. And that was what was going on in the background of that scene. I previously said that I liked the way it was shot, of the cops talking to Rigotti and seeing that in the background. So he was actually uh, having a great time at work. And that's when the cops decided, oh, this is a great time to arrest him. And they act like jerks to Rigotti, and the cops won't tell Rigotti what they want Donald for, and they slap handcuffs on Donald and take him away. And then cut to a scene of Donald in jail, mopping the floor. Guard comes in and talks about how hard Donald works, tells Donald, let's go for a ride. And so next scene, we see a cab driving under a bridge. Lowell gets out and goes to the scene of the crime. A guy named Joe shows up, and Lowell asks, where's my client? And they say, he's coming. They got caught at the light. So the two, I'll call them dicks, detectives, dicks. I'll call them that for the rest of the movie. The two dicks approach with Donald, and Lowell tells him to take off the cuffs because he can't gesture without his hands. So Joe holds up a picture of Geraldine, and Donald looks and nods. And then he holds up a picture of Geraldine dead at the site. And Donald shows them a stranger approach and started to fight him with a knife, and says that the killer stabbed Ernestine while he is doing the actions and Lowell is interpreting. And Lowell says that he's showing them that a killer with a knife did this, and one of the dick cops says no, he just acted out the confession. And I could see both sides of that,
I
depending
could
on what
too.
you're
I'm like,
looking
it
for.
does kind of look like a confession. So
Yeah. So, um, Joe says either way, he was here. Looks like we have ourselves a murder trial. So the next scene, we're at the court, and the DA says he wants the grand jury to come up with murder in the first degree, and the jury does grant the DA's request. So he's going to be up for murder in the first degree. And then we have a scene in prison that just shows Donald crying, and it's very sad. So then the two dicks are driving with Donald in the back seat, and they say Donald is thinking about getting his hands on another broad, and they call him a deaf mute Jack the Ripper, and they're just being mean to him, you know. They arrive at a facility where Donald is tested and evaluated while the cops watch. They're trying to measure his intelligence, and Donald seems to be purposefully failing the simple test. And he throws all the testing materials on the floor and flings a book at the window where the dicks are standing.
Hmm.
So Donald is obviously acting belligerent. He does, no, I'm not going to do your test, basically. So Lowell and Gene are walking in the courtroom, and Lowell is telling the DA, "How dare you test Donald without including me?" Which I, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
These cops just run all over everybody.
Yeah.
So the DA says, "Well, he's a murderer," and
Yeah. You cannot say that before the trial, dude.
yeah,
Allegedly.
yeah, and they said every time the dummy walks through the neighborhood, there are new dead hookers. Oh, that's great. And Lowell says that's a lie, and don't use that term dummy, meaning in my presence again. Um, you were just wanting to convict him to climb the ladder. That's what Lowell ends up telling the DA, which that's what a DA does. You know, the more cases you close, the faster your career goes up the ladder.
Yep.
So they enter the courtroom for the competency hearing. The DA tells the jury he was found competent. If he is found competent, he will stand trial. If he is found incompetent, he will be sent to a state hospital for treatment. Lowell objects that there are no precedents in the law to send a man to a state hospital if he is found incompetent. The judge says that the court will decide that at the proper time. And Lowell calls Julius to the stand to testify on behalf of Donald. And he says Donald is a very normal human being. He works, he helps around the house, he spends his own money. Donnie learns by showing him just once, and he has it down. And he said, I just want Donnie to come back and live with me again. And then they call their pastor to the seat and says that he's known Donald for 10 years and he is smart, but just lacks education. And I thought that was a very good evaluation of
Yeah.
Donald. During this time, Donald is thinking about the Dicks and how he has been treated because they're sitting there watching this. The DA calls the professor to the stand, the guy who gave him the competency test that Donald belligerently just wouldn't follow. And the professor said that mentally he's about 7 years old. Um, he became frustrated. When he becomes frustrated, he becomes hostile and aggressive. And I thought, man, so I'm 7 years old. If you put me in that situation, I'd probably be hostile and aggressive.
Yeah, especially when you have no other way of communicating,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. So Lowell questions the professor, did you consult with his jailers about Donald? No. Did you consult with his relatives and coworkers about Donald? No. Uh, the white cop, or excuse me, the white dick keeps smirking at Donald, and Donald is getting angry, but he's handcuffed there, but he's losing it. And so then Donald starts slapping the table because it's the only way he can communicate with his free hand. And the dick, just laughs at him. And Lowell tells Donald he must be calm, and the jury finds him incompetent. And he is sentenced to Menard Mental Health Center. Do you know where that is, Tabitha?
I know you save big money at Menards.
No, Menards. Menards is a state
No.
facility, um, state prison in Chester, Illinois, the home of Popeye.
No kidding.
No kidding. Yep.
Huh. Was Popeye sent there
No, but
for
I
his
knew a guy.
aggression?
I knew a guy who was sent there. I'm not kidding you. We had this guy that went to our church who was not all there, and he had had his brushes with the law. So he broke into someone's house and stole their coin collection. They had a rare coin collection. And then he took it straight to the bank, put it on the teller's counter, and said, I bet that's worth a lot of money. She said,
Wow.
well, yeah, let me go look at this. Let me take this back and look at it. Next thing you know, she'd call the police, and here comes security until the police got there. he wasn't
Should
too
have
smart, but
taken it to a pawn shop where they
yeah,
don't ask questions.
I give you 87 cents. It's the best I can do. Oh, so Lowell comes to visit Donald in the mental hospital, the mental health facility. And it's a classic 70s mental hospital setting, just very sad. And he tells Donald that he will keep fighting. And Donald motions that he wants to leave with Lowell. He says, "You can't, but I will keep fighting for you." Next scene, Lowell's talking to the judge. He said, "You put him in a cage full of maniacs. There is no special training going on there. Donald needs special training." The next scene, there's a woman who's trying to teach Donald the alphabet with sign language. A few of the observers decide to take him. A few of the observers decide to take him out of isolation. Um, I that was an accident, but anyway, is the therapist is trying to teach him the alphabet. He starts grabbing at her, and I don't know if it was intended. It's probably intended to be ambiguous. You didn't know if he was like sexual grabs or like help me get out of here. I don't know what it was. But anyway, Lowell dictates a brief to next thing Lowell dictates a brief to Gene that he needs to be put in a facility to teach him to sign. Once he communicates, then he should be put on trial like anyone else. There is a difference between an educational facility and being locked up with the criminally insane. This is for the judge to decide. So, um, back at the facility, Donald is walking in the lounge and he looks at a magazine, and three guys approach him and they're trying to act like they're making friends with him. And they coax Donnie out of the room to another room and they rape him.
I
And
was surprised they put that on TV in
it,
1979.
it was, yeah, they were somewhere much more permissive in a lot of ways back then. It was just
Mm.
so, now, of course, it's not like you're watching hardcore, but you are watching
No,
what they could show
but
of
you
rapes.
understand what's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
So Julius comes to the facility to visit uh, Donald, gives him an apple, and of course, Donald just wants to leave with Julius, and then they cry and embrace. It was so heart touching.
That also broke my heart
Yeah.
when he gestures like, just can we leave now? I'm like, oh God. And you know, and it breaks Julius's heart too, you know?
Oh
He
yeah.
wants to take him home so much.
Yeah. It's like when you bring Dominic here, and like a half an hour later, he's like putting his coat on, like, "Oh, we've seen Grandpa and Grandma. Bye." So
Pretty much. He's like, we've done our visiting. See you later.
yeah, we'll have like a party or dinner or something planned where the families are going to be together for, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. And Dominic comes in, takes off his coat, he greets everybody and everything. And then after about a half an hour, he's playing and we're talking. He just grabs his coat, like, "Well, we've been here. Let's go."
And he starts
No.
making his rounds like, mwah, okay,
Yeah.
bye,
Yeah.
bye, bye.
Yes.
Oh, it's so funny. When he's
Uh,
ready, he's ready.
oh, yeah. So the next scene, one of the men who assaulted Donnie is sweeping in the hallway, and he goes by Donnie's cell and asks him to come to the door. And one of the doctors for the facility observes this and scolds the rapist to get back to work. And the doctor calls Donnie to the hall, and the rapist makes snide remarks to Donnie. And the doctor says to the rapist, "You're going to be confined to your cell." And so the rapist starts assaulting the doctor, not sexually, but assaulting the doctor.
Yeah, I'm
Donnie
like, I
jumps
think
in.
we're a little understaffed here, aren't we?
Yeah. So, and this was a big guy, by the way. So Donnie jumps in and tries to help the doctor until orderlies get there and pull the abuser off. So we have a voiceover of Lowell as he is walking into the facility, and he says that the law is imperfect. By the time the state of Illinois got to the brief Lowell sent, Donnie had been in for nearly a year. The state said the lower court should have educated him on competency before ruling. So he approaches Donald as if he is working in the as he is working in the kitchen. Lowell does, and he tells Donnie, "You can leave. I got you out." So Donnie is put into an educational facility to learn to sign and communicate, and Lowell and Julius observe him in class. And Julius says, "When will he get to where he can really understand?" Um, and Lowell said, "Could be 5, 10 years." And Julius is pissed. That is a lifetime. Yeah, that's what your mom said. That's what you said. And your mom said, that's what we got to give him. So give it to him.
Well, I think I'm not a doctor, but from what I've heard, once you reach a certain age and you have not have any basic communication, like training or exposure education, it is much harder to learn.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, like there was this case, I don't know if you've heard about this. This poor girl was just abused by her family. She was like kept tied to a chair in a dark room for like a decade. And when they finally got her out, I don't think she was ever able to learn how to really speak.
Yeah, there's
So,
a lot of there's a case of two sisters, Anna and Isabel. Of course, these are pseudonyms. And yeah, they were abused and kept locked up and you know, found as young adults, and they never learned to communicate much or anything. There's a few cases like that. It's very
yeah,
sad.
it is. It's
I
horrible.
I I I've always said I think before a kid hits puberty, we give them the most comprehensive mental personality test. And if you don't have it to be a parent, right then you're fixed, just like a dog.
I mean, that's I understand, but that's a pretty big violation of your bodily autonomy.
I
But I
know,
get
right?
it. I get it.
Wait. You don't have control of your body, just white men do. Now let's get
Okay,
that
well,
straight. Because God is a white man, and his name is
everyone knows
probably
that.
Charles, not Yahweh. So,
Yes, because the Garden of Eden was in Missouri.
well, that's right. I forgot
Isn't that
that.
what the Mormons say?
Yep. And that's where heaven and earth are going to come down in Jackson County, Missouri. So there
Well,
you
thank God we're so close then. We don't have to travel.
go. So Lowell says he is going to submit a writ of habeas corpus for a trial, and that a trial is the only shot that he has. And Lowell tells Julius, "I'm also on time because I'm losing my ability to talk properly," which has to be frustrating and scary for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the next scene, Donnie is working at this facility and is joking around, enjoying things a bit. And so then they're paying this people who are there the work, and they give Donnie a bill, and he's like, and
Yep,
they
where's
said,
the rest? Yeah.
yeah. So that's all you're getting. So he tears up the bill and throws it back at the person paying. I mean, this guy's had a real job on a dock for 4 years and probably gets paid not great, but probably
They
not
they said
that.
he was getting 22.50 a day for his shift. So I don't know what that amounts to in 1979, but obviously more than the dollar they just gave him.
Mm, yeah. But where am I at? So he's 3 years in the school. He's bored. He's frustrated. No, Lowell saying he's 3 years in the school. He's learned boredom and frustration. Like that's really the only thing he's learned.
Yeah.
Teaching him to sign is like teaching a blind man to paint the Sistine Chapel, and he became embittered and angry. So Lowell kept filing briefs, and finally gets a case before the state Supreme Court. And, the district attorney, of course, shows up and he does his shit. And Lowell argues that deaf mutes are not mentally incompetent. You can get along without speaking through gestures. The cops drug him off and he cannot understand the language because he is deaf. Doesn't mean he is not competent. We can try to teach a cow to eat sawdust, but he will resist. And
And
go ahead.
sorry, I was just gonna say he says something I really like. He's like, now Imagine you're in a foreign country. You don't speak the language. You're not incompetent there, you know? Now imagine you're hauled into court in that foreign country where you still don't speak the language. You're still not incompetent, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I liked that.
Donald resists education because he can communicate in his own way, and I get that.
Mm,
It's 20-something-year-old man. This is what I know. It's
yeah.
very. Any attempt to learn a language is fruitless, and Donald has known this for his whole life. By the way, this is him talking to the um, state Supreme Court. He says a deaf mute cannot be in prison because he cannot communicate. He has a right to a trial and a right to a normal life. We do not come here today to seek judgment on a fine legal point. This is a basic tenet of morality. He has a constitutional right to a criminal trial. Outside the
Has
court,
the right to be a little child.
Outside the court, Lowell, Jean, and Julius are waiting, and the DA comes out and says to the justices, um, uh, the DA comes out and says the justices have agreed to an expedient trial, so they're happy. And Lowell and Jean get the evidence from the police records. Donald's clothes are not with the evidence and just pictures, and the clothes that could have exonerated him, depending on the blood splatter, just aren't there. And he just gets pictures. There's no knife either. The evidence just gone.
Yeah, I love how the guy's like, look, it's been a long time. I'm like, okay, is it not your job to keep track of this evidence?
Yeah. Yep. So in court, the DA determines the witnesses to circumstantial evidence. The DA asks for the charges to be dismissed. Um, which means that there's going to be no trial. Donald's a free man.
Yeah, the
And
prosecutor is going through, is listing off the witnesses he no longer has before
yeah,
going into court. And he said one thing, he said it so quick, but it was kind of scary. He goes, the bartender disappeared. He's probably dead. And I'm like, is somebody on that case? What do you mean he disappeared? You know?
or he's a magician. He either got killed or he's a magician. That's
Well, that's always a possibility.
um so Donald hugs Lowell and gives him his pen back, and they cry, and Vince cried, I will admit it. Lowell goes back to work at the produce dock. He is welcomed back. Rigotti comes and hugs Donnie. Then Rigotti meets with Lowell and he says, I'm here to check up on him without checking up on him. He says Donnie is a little different because of his experience, and you can understand that. And
Yeah, it was nice to see his coworkers like be happy to see him and, give him a warm welcome back.
this is the twist. The last scene, Donnie walks back into the bar and a woman approaches him and he gives her money, and the woman was found murdered in a hotel room. And it is explained at the end that Donald is in Cook County Jail awaiting trial, and Lowell is going to be his counselor on this murder case too. Tabitha, do you think I saw this as a kid when it first came on? Did I see a repeat of it, or was this the first time I've seen this movie?
79. You could have seen it when it first came out.
Are you
I'll
saying I
say that.
did? Yeah,
I'll
I
say that.
did. I saw it when it first came out, and it was one of those movies. Me and my friend Phil, you know, I'm sure when you and Natalie are together, you're watching movies, and that's it. When me and
We
Phil and me and my
talk.
friends were together, if there's a movie going on, we may talk about baseball for 20 minutes. We may, you know, flick each other's earlobe or something. Kids did stuff like that.
Mhm.
So me and Phil watching, I do remember it being on. I remember the rape scene. That was the scene that, oh, ooh, yeah, I don't like that. And then, but I had forgotten the voiceover at the end explained that the same situation happened and he was waiting trial for it.
Yeah, I actually did go to Wikipedia to look him up before I watched the movie, so I did know that there was a second victim. And I gotta say, I don't know if I necessarily believe he's innocent.
Okay.
That's
I
a weird thing to happen twice, don't you think?
yeah, it's just to same bar, same guy, the same thing happened. And earlier in the movie, the bartenders said that he treated the women nice, he'd
Hmm.
pay for them and stuff like that. Serial killers likely don't start their career on the first date. They work up to it. They get more
Hmm.
comfortable with people and understand things. And that was my thought. Maybe Ernestine was his first one, but it was like a thing with him now. And then it
Yeah.
happened again. So,
Now, none of this means that he wasn't totally treated unfairly by the justice system
yeah.
because we still, again, in theory, have an obligation to treat our citizens and non-citizens justly. And that wasn't happening here.
Do you give this a classic or a trash it?
I'll give it a classic. I think it
Okay.
was a very interesting story. The acting was really good. I enjoyed it.
I give it a classic too. I think this would be remembered as it would be much more memorable if this didn't happen. But we know that it's not a happy ending. So I kind of had to separate the movie from what happened after the movie.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about this from the perspective of as a movie. I think it's fantastic. I thought all the acting was great, and Paul Sorvino pulls off a deaf mute. Great.
Well, he's not a mute.
Yeah. Or, sorry, a deaf
Yeah.
person. Great.
Yeah.
But I've seen him in many things, Goodfellas. Oh God, one of his greatest performances. Um, I would put this as maybe his best performance. He's not a stereotypical tough guy or whatever that he usually,
Yeah.
because he's a big imposing guy. And I thought that he portrayed strength and compassion in a great way. You could tell that I'm a bulldog and I get what I want despite having my hearing taken away from me, but he still had compassion. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was a great job by him. I thought LaVar Burton did good for not speaking a word in this movie.
Hmm.
And I thought that Julius character, Stephen Williams, was fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, I think Paul, if I had to rate him, Paul Sorvino's probably the best acting job than Stephen Williams and LaVar Burton. But they're all three for a TV movie. This was so well acted. So I give it a very strong classic, but understand before you watch it, there's more to the story.
Yeah.
And as Paul
Hey,
Harvey used to say, now you know the rest of the story.
my favorite Ned Beatty performance was in The Execution of Private Slovak TV movie. I thought it was just amazing in it. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's great. So, what are we going to do next week? Are we going to go on vacation? Are we going to tell people that the internet's out? Are we really going to do this?
we're really gonna do this. Now, I genuinely do try to not do too many horror or thriller movies, but that's my genre. That's what I gravitate toward. That's most of what's on my list. So, sorry, we're doing one again. This is called The House That Wouldn't Die, and it stars Barbara Stanwyck.
Hmm. From the Big Valley.
Among many, many classic Hollywood movies. Yes,
But the Big Valley is what I will forever know her for because I grew up watching the Big Valley. So,
fair
all
enough.
right, well, join us next week. We're sorry that the summer's been kind of choppy. Hopefully, we'll get back on a regular schedule. Um, because my dementia seems to be declining. So, I'm not as bad as I was earlier in the summer. So,
That's great. Good
all
for
right.
you.
All right. We'll see you next week. Thank you.